A very, very warm welcome once again, guys. Hi, my name is Kasim, and welcome back again to Journal Entries and my podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you've been having a good week. I hope life has been treating you well. Things have been getting better. This week I wanted to talk about the hidden mental and emotional load of teenage boys and men caring for family members, and why men who are caring for family members often go unseen. I want to begin off by explaining what a stereotype is, because I think it's really important that we understand this in the context of the conversation that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to read what it says here. It says that a stereotype is a widely held but oversimplistic and often inaccurate belief or idea about a particular group of people, type of person, or thing. It typically usually involves generalizing characteristics such as behavior, abilities, personality, or appearance to all of the members of the group, regardless of their individual differences. So, for example, you might hear somebody say something like, "Oh, teenagers are lazy," or you might hear that men are bad at showing their emotions. Listen to me. While some stereotypes may contain a small element of truth for certain individuals, they are often misleading, unfair, and harmful because they ignore personal uniqueness and reinforce bias or prejudice. So, in the context of what we're going to talk about today, which is male carers or men or boys or teenage boys who look after family members, um, a stereotype is the oversimplified and often inaccurate belief that caring is women's work and that men are less suited, less capable, or less interested in providing care. This stereotype comes from a long-standing cultural and gender norm that positions men as breadwinners and women as nurturers. Consequently, male carers and those men and boys who look after family members are often overlooked because people assume that they're less likely to be the kind of person who's going to look after a family member, and therefore there's less of them, and therefore it's not naturally suited to them, and that their skills are going to be underestimated anyway, right? There are many people who may think that men are less patient, less emotionally attuned, or less able to provide compassionate care, even if they're excellent carers. They may face stigma, they may feel isolated. You would be shocked at the amount of men who are in caring roles, who are judged, who are patronized, and who are treated as an or treated as unusual simply for doing what women do without question. You have to understand that the reality is that across the UK, there are millions of boys and men who are both paid and unpaid. Uh, uh, carers who are looking after members of their family, their partners, or even people who are working for a client. And that client, as you'll find out later on, can actually be their own family members, right? But because of the level of stereotyping that goes on, you would be shocked at how many men and boys I get who are young carers who come into my therapy room who are talking to me about feeling isolated, about being judged, about being patronized, about being misunderstood, about being stereotyped, when actually they're doing some really, really vital work. They are very emotionally attuned. They are supporting members of the community. They are very selfless. Um, but unfortunately, they're just not given the same respect, the same kudos as everybody else. What catalysted me to really talk about this conversation is that I was watching YouTube Reels a couple of days ago. And when I was watching those YouTube Reels, I came across a reel where a woman was talking about how most men leave their wives when they get sick, but most wives do not leave their husbands when they get sick. They remain. And I'm going to be blunt with you. This really pissed me off. It pissed me off because this is not what I see in my therapy rooms. In fact, if you look at the data and the statistics in the UK, there are about 2 million male unpaid carers. which makes up roughly somewhere between 40 to 42% of all informal carers. So let's break that down a bit more so we can look at it. The total unpaid carers are around 5 to 5.8 million across the UK. In terms of male versus female, there's approximately, as I've just said, 2 million, give or take, males and about 3 million women and females who are providing unpaid care. In England and Wales, that's about 7.6% of males and 10.4% of females who report providing unpaid care. That means in every two, two of every five unpaid carers are men, right? Uh, That's significant. That's significant because that basically means that when you look at the data is telling us that almost half of all the carers are boys and men. But actually, if you look at the stereotype is telling us that the vast majority of them are women, which the vast majority would mean like 70%, 80%, 90%. That is not the vast majority. It's about 50-50, give or take, right? So I want to have a little look and explore what the difference is between paid and unpaid carers in the UK. Oh, my goodness me, my light has just gone off. So in the UK, caring for family members can take many forms. For some, it is a professional carer. For others, it's unpaid responsibility taken on out of love or necessity. Whilst both roles are vital, there is an important distinction between paid carers and unpaid carers. So what's a paid carer? A paid carer is someone who is formally employed to provide care and is paid for their work. This might include people like care assistants, home care workers, support workers, personal assistants, or staff in residential or nursing homes. Paid carers usually work either for a care agency, the local authority, the NHS, or they may be hired privately, as I said earlier on, by individuals or by families. Because they're in a formal role, paid carers are entitled to all the privileges that everybody else gets who are in formal employment. So they're entitled to wages. There's minimum national wages that are required. They receive training to help them carry out their duties safely and efficient and effectively. I mean, you can just imagine trying to carry somebody, you know, who is maybe got a disability and you're trying to do it by yourself. Imagine the amount of back problems you would have if you're having to do that multiple times a day and you're doing that for weeks and months on and years, sometimes years on end. You can imagine the physical toll that can start to impact people. And that's why one of the things that is set is the working hours. There is a written contract and there's a very clear, defined list of responsibilities because there has to be some level of boundaries. And what makes it difficult, particularly if you're paid by family members, is that these roles and these boundaries they can begin to blur. So payment for paid carers can come directly from the person who's receiving the care or from the local authority funding. Um, and also, there does need to, in some cases, need to be a needs assessment, which is done, right? Sometimes, as many of us know, their care costs are actually covered by the NHS continuing healthcare funding for those who have complex needs. So, what's an unpaid carer? Because this is what I see a lot in my therapy room. An unpaid carer is someone who provides care for a family member, friend, partner, or neighbor without receiving a salary for their time. This is sometimes referred to as informal care, and it can involve helping with daily personal care, such as washing, dressing, feeding, managing medication, accompanying somebody to medical appointments or supporting them with household or financial tasks. Unpaid carers are not employees and therefore do not receive wages for their work. However, the role that they play is very crucial and it comes with significant, I'm sure you can imagine, it comes with significant emotional, physical, and financial challenges. Many unpaired carers are having to juggle their own life, their own personal health, work, family life. Sometimes they are trying to study, and their contribution actually in many times is what allows certain people to be able to use the NHS. Because if you can imagine the needs that are taken on that I, if the need if the 2 million unpaid work the if the unpaid workers were to stop being unpaid and the burden then came to the government, you can imagine how much money that would be costing and the pressure and the burden that it would add to the health and share and social care system. You can imagine, right? So I also want to look at um, the age groups because I think the age groups is really important. The most likely to be carers in England or Wales are men aged between 60 to 64, which is about 13% in this age group of unpaid care workers. The least likely are boys and men between the ages of 5 and 17, which equate to about 1.2%. The peak caring ages for men, as I say, ranges somewhere between 50 to 64. Around 17% are carers, caring for parents or partners, while for women is slightly higher. Older carers who are 80 plus, after the age of 80, the gender gap narrows and even reverses. Men aged 85 to 89 are more likely to provide 50 plus hours per week of care, about 7.4% of women do that. Sorry, about 7.4% than women. Let's continue looking at these age ranges. Really, what I'd like to do is look at some of the most common reasons why men become carers. So I've got a list here. So you've got dementia, including Alzheimer's. You've got Parkinson's disease, stroke, cancer. You've got disability or learning difficulties in children or siblings, mental health conditions. Some men care for loved ones with severe mental health issues like schizophrenia, bipolar, or PTSD, and they're often navigating really complex emotional and practical needs. So, whilst dementia, Parkinson's, and stroke are leading physical mental health reasons, caring can also be linked to mental health, cancer, or disability. It really depends on the age, and the relationship of the carer to the person that is needing help. The most common reasons that men become carers are family obligation or love. Many men step into the carer role because they feel it's their duty or responsibility, especially for a partner, parent, or child. Um, there is a lack of alternative support. Many men often become carers when there is no other family members who are able or willing to provide care for certain family members. This can happen suddenly, for example, after a health crisis, or this can actually happen gradually as needs increase. It's also there's an element of culture. So in some cultures or families, caregiving roles often fall to the eldest son or family member seen as the protector or the provider. In these cases, men may feel a deep cultural or moral obligation to step in. There's also change in circumstances. Men who lose their jobs, retire, or experience change in their own health or availability might naturally shift into a caregiving role. Some might find themselves becoming carers after a bereavement or family breakdown. But there's also practical or financial reasons. Sometimes it's a practical decision. If a male partner earns less or is already at home, it may make more sense for them to take care and to take on the caregiving duties of family members. Um, Here's a question that you might be interested. Do men regret becoming carers? Well, if you ask most men who are carers if they regret it, they'll likely say no, because how can you regret caring for somebody who you love? But what they don't say is that sometimes they hate it, not the person, but rather the situation. the loss of freedom, the constant tiredness, the endless list of things that they need to do, the sense that life has become one long to-do list of tasks no one else sees, and then become they then sometimes comes guilt because how dare they feel stressed, frustrated, how they feel resentful. After all, they're the ones who are healthy, strong, and the ones who can, right? There is this really conflicting internal dialogue that goes on. They love the person they care for. They resent the weight of the care. They feel ashamed for feeling resentful. But they stay silent, and the whole thing repeats all over again. And this is where therapy can, of course, help because, if you're listening to me, one of the things that will probably have pressed upon you is that it can be really, really, really difficult and really lonely and really isolating to go through this period in your life. Right. Therapy won't be able to fix your situation, but what therapy does is it gives you a space to be able to just talk, to just be, no judgment, no pressure, no pretending to be okay. Right. Of course, for me, my counseling practice, I understand a lot of these issues. And so for me, you know, I offer people a space where they can feel angry, sad, numb, tired, and even lost. Sometimes we don't even say anything. Some clients just sit down, and they just be at peace with themselves without anyone expecting anything from them. So I'm going to stop here today. I've written the article, it's online, my Substack, kasimkawesa.substack.com. So if you want to have a look at it, jump on my website, um, jump on my Substack and have a read of it. But apart from that, I hope today was useful. It's a bit of a short one than usual. And I will speak to you very soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye for now.